Hey everybody, welcome. Happy Friday. It's Friday. It's 4 p.m. Pacific. It's time for another Pathfinder Friday. Today, we're going to be doing a recap on Chapter 4, which we just saw the big finale of yesterday on the Thursday live stream is what we're gonna that's what we're gonna call that. That's the new name for it, Thursday live stream. And so we wrapped that up yesterday, and now, just as like a nice recap or an end cap on everything, we have Mark Seifter in the building. Thank you for joining us, Mark. That's our main camera right there. That's
Hello.
Your camera. I just realized Mark's not been on Doomsday Dawn before, the Deconstructing Doomsday Dawn. This is the first time.
I'm not. I have not been here for this particular setup of the studio yet.
Yeah. Oh, you have not sat in the chair.
I think I've sat in this chair, but it wasn't set up exactly the same way.
As a GM. Right?
Yeah, it was over there.
Well, welcome. So just what we plan to do today, just so you know, is we're going to do a recap of some of the live stream stuff that happened, kind of talk about that chapter in general, which was Chapter 4, The Mirrored Moon. Mm-hmm. Then we're going to go ahead and do some, well, I think we've got a top 5.
Of the updates. We have a top 5 for the, and we have a whole section that's going to be on update 1.4. We'll end it with the top 5.
And then he jumps ahead. We're going to preview 1.4, which comes out Monday, right?
Yeah, and that's where the top 5 will be.
Does it still come out Monday? Because Monday's a holiday for, so
I would say, I'm going to say, unfortunately for us, it does.
It does come out. So unfortunately for Mark and Jason and Steven and Logan, the update should still be coming out Monday. That's the story we're sticking to right now.
Yeah. Jason has already said he doesn't really expect to get Monday off.
Yeah, well, you know, I mean, work from home is almost as good, you know. So I mean, it's not as good. Let's be honest, but
it's not as good as not work from home. Come on,
exactly. And there's that exactly. So let's get into and then after that we'll take a break, and then we'll do some Q&A, and then after that, whoever's left in the chat and whoever sticks with us past 4:30 Pacific, which there's another person going on. There's another team starting a stream at 4:30. If you hang with us, we're going to take everybody and raid that other team that starts right around 5. You might, maybe a half hour later or so, but we'll get more into that later. So stick with us. It's going to be a lot of fun. Mark, nice work on the GMing the last couple of weeks.
Thanks.
That was a lot of fun. I enjoyed that.
It's pretty interesting. It's definitely a little bit more of a sandbox than some of the other ones. Obviously, it's a pre-written adventure with only a few things in it, so it's not a giant sandbox, but the PCs really have their own opportunity to take the task and the goal that they have in front of them and decide how they're going to solve it, whichever way that they want to.
I liked the idea of, here's this big land, run in there, see who you can find to help you, see who you can, who you need to stop. It just kind of had that open-ended exploration thing that I love so much about RPGs.
Right.
And they, that one was a lot of fun. It was really hard to run the tech for it because it was like, I don't know where you guys are going. I don't know where the PCs are going to end up. So it was a lot. I had to pay attention, which doesn't happen very often, but I did, and it was a lot of fun. So what surprised you about Chapter 4, The Mirrored Moon?
Well, I guess I wasn't terribly surprised by the results, although I will say that I expected the PCs to do very well because in my experience, PCs are pretty powerful and tend to do pretty well in most encounters. But I didn't expect them to do as well as they did. I think part of that may have been Katina's dice luck.
Let's be honest, it was all Katina. You couldn't, all of her saves were in the 30s, just crazy.
She was just critically succeeding all of them.
It was nuts.
But her bonuses weren't it wasn't like her bonuses were 23 and she only rolled a 10. Her bonuses were such that those were high rolls. So
I know that there were people in the chat that were like, wow, the monk is really OP and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I don't think so. I think Katina's just rolling rocks today. I think that she was just rocking it.
Monks are really quite strong.
Are they?
But Katina was also really rocking it.
So by their powers combined, it was an unstoppable force.
Because monks give you a lot of good action economy. So if you can take the action economy of the monk, combine it with the die rolls of Katina, and that is an unstoppable combination.
What did they come up against that you thought, oh, this is going to give them trouble, and they were like, no, we're fine, we're good?
I thought that, so they had 2 encounters. The first one was with a red dragon and a fire giant. I thought that one they would be fine.
Yeah, right.
I thought they would be fine. I didn't realize they would crush them into the ground. Partially that was the fire giant couldn't roll above a 3 to save his life on his first attacks. And then after that, they came against the cultists at the finale, but they did have the maximum number of allies. So that's usually not too bad. The cultists have a lot of debuffs and save or lose, but as long as you save, you don't lose from those. I did manage to paralyze more of them than I expected with a single pretty low DC paralysis aura. They were rolling really badly on that.
Yeah.
So that's almost the only thing that kept those enemies alive for as long as they lasted, is that they paralyzed Katina out of a turn, and they paralyzed Chris's druid out of 2 turns. And as soon as he, well,
2.
sort of, but one of them was like during his turn, so he didn't really lose one of them. So I guess really he lost 1 turn. But
yeah,
because as soon as he came in, he started grabbing them down, and that could have happened sooner.
Yeah, that's true. And I was because it's Chris Sims' character that has the big mouth, or was that Ron Lundine's character?
That's Ron's character.
That's Ron's character.
Ron's character's mouth was funny, but it didn't probably like completely annihilate the enemies in the same way that Chris's was when he was grabbing them down and ground pounding them and getting them into a position to be killed by.
Oh, that was a lot of fun.
Else.
That's right. Didn't he jump up and ground the dragon? Was it the dragon?
It was a Nethalgu.
Oh, yeah, that's right. So apparently
he actually grounded the dragon with magic.
Yeah,
which he also did to the Nethalgu, but it managed to get back up again later on in the fight.
It did. Yeah, that was a good fight too. I like that one. All right, so that kind of recaps a little bit of the chapter 4, the Mirrored Moon.
That's right.
What do we have survey data to go over? Do we have anything like that?
So I've been told that the survey data is now on the off week. So that means I'll be back next week with you for survey data. This allows all of you guys to have more chances to play before we report the survey data. So we get to report data that is not only the fastest possible people completing it.
Yeah, that's true.
But what we do have is design goals for each section.
Design goals?
Yeah, so we want to talk, and I mean, these are in there, so anyone who ran it sees. But the goal that we had for part 4 was, it's a Nova test.
What is a Nova test exactly?
Well, I'm glad you asked, Dan. I was gonna.
For those of us that didn't go to MIT, Mark, what is a Nova test?
I didn't learn this at MIT. I learned it on random forums about.
I was trying to give you a good segue.
Yeah, but I learned it at random forums about RPGs. So Novaing in any RPG or even a computer RPG generally means throwing all of your best stuff right away at a fight or encounter, and often running out of limited resources potentially.
Right.
Is notably a thing that psionic characters did a lot back in 3.5 because they could variably choose how to spend their power points. So Novaing was, always the biggest power. Oh, wait, I'm out of powers, let's rest.
Right.
As opposed to being more conservative where you're, this is the power I need for now.
Yeah.
In Pathfinder 1, Novaing would be like, I'm going to spend all my key points on extra attacks with my monk immediately, or 3 goblins, meteor swarm. But sometimes Novaing is very powerful against a hard fight because you get to throw your best stuff and it's against a really strong opponent. So notably, and one of the reasons we chose the region near the Stolen Lands for this part, is that Kingmaker Adventure Path has a huge reputation because of the fact that you're traveling around. How realistic is it that during one day of traveling you encounter like 7 different things, right? You usually it's just one. So it has a major reputation for being very Nova friendly. Yeah. And having that potentially distort gameplay in it, where certain GMs would come to the forums and be like, because Linda was running it and she was reading the forums for us like way before we joined this company, like back in college, and she's like, yeah, people are all talking about how certain character combinations are really crushing it because of the fact that they only do one encounter in a day and they throw everything into that one encounter.
Right.
So we wanted to specifically test that and we see how things go. And we also have endurance rounds, like Part 3 had a bunch of fights in a row. So that way, we didn't think it was going to be that surprising, but we can always sort of pivot survey data based on what people are playing, for example. So if we find out, hey, guess what? The spellcasters really thought they had enough spells and really kicked ass when they could Nova all of them in one fight, but when they had to do 9 or however many ways there were in Part 3, they might have been like, oh, wow, I didn't have enough spells. It's like, well, yeah, things are different on different times, and we need to balance the classes based on that. In terms of running Part 4, it definitely seemed that, to be honest, they just did so well that it didn't really matter that they could Nova. I think they probably could have done both of those fights in the same day as each other and still won. Now, the final fight, if you don't have all 4 ally points, is an extreme, which is expected to be a 50-50 death chance, even if you go all out. So that one is probably an even better test of the ability to Nova. It's like, well, you can Nova, though. Is that going to be enough? And possibly the Sea Serpent they didn't fight, mainly because it has a Spine Rake ability that almost certainly should have been a 2-action activity, but is listed as 1 action, so it can do it 3 times.
Wow. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, but I looked at its damage and ability and was like, yeah, I'm thinking we had this as a 2-action. It lost one of those action bugs at some point during the process because the damage is on par with an at-will 2-action ability, especially since it lets you move.
Right.
So, yeah.
So then the idea with the chapter was to give it a Nova test, but not to try to say at the end of the day we want to make sure that you can't be good at this type of skirmish or this type of once attack.
We just want to know how much better you are at this than you are at not this.
Okay. All right.
So advanced preparation for exactly the monster you're fighting, which my group definitely did, is a possibility. Having only 1 fight per day. Obviously, we don't want to make you lose in your 1 fight per day. You should probably win if it's any reasonable fight per day.
Right.
But just seeing how different classes played, and that's just in terms of you guys get a chance to see how different classes play in the Nova test. And we get a chance to see feedback from different people in the Nova test as well. So that's what it's really all about. We knew right up front, right when we were starting, before we had the 7 chapters, we were like, well, something pretty traditional dungeon crawl for the first one. We need something that is at a level where you can't just fly over everything, but that explores all the different environments to see how painful it is to have really crazy environments, and that was Part 2. Then we're like, and we also really need a Nova test, and then one that is a real endurance fest. At least. Those are like how we started. We came up with more as we went along, and I won't spoil the other portions that come after this by mentioning them.
Which I'm very excited for. And that's the thing with each part of this whole book, of the whole Doomsday Dawn. There's really interesting things that I'm looking forward to with each one, and so I'm kind of excited what we've seen so far, and also what's still to come. You know,
absolutely,
it's very exciting stuff. So, all right. So, Nova test, the Novad Moon. Apparently,
the Novad Moon.
Okay, and then we won't, and then we'll not get into survey data because we want people to have a chance to play. Which, by the way, this keeps coming up. I want to make sure everybody knows, especially all of you out there in Twitch land and YouTube, if you're watching this later. Hi, everybody. The surveys are going to be open until at least mid-December, somewhere in there, almost till the end of this year. I keep seeing people that are like, oh, I'm already behind, and keep playing. You've got plenty of time. We're sticking to a schedule just because we want to, give some example of, hey, don't give up yet. We're still playing. Everything's good. But that's mostly just an arbitrary time that we came up with. We don't expect everyone to stick with us.
We want it to be like sort of a special thing where if you feel like you're following us, then we really highlight and compliment what you're doing so that you can be like, wow, they're playing it and we're playing it. And Order of the Amber Die is playing it and Glass Cannon's playing it. But if you have a different schedule, if you've blazed through all of them, or if you want to go until the end of the year, and that's as much as you can do, you'll absolutely have your feedback will still count.
Yeah, I think you know, and the other part that kind of goes along with that is the data is data no matter when that comes in. Like we want to make sure that as diverse groups start to play. But one of the things that I keep seeing about these weekly shows that we're doing now is people that are about ready to GM a chapter get to watch. Get to watch you, or next week I think Jason Bowman is back next week.
That's true.
For Chapter 5. You're getting to see these folks that, you know, this is their job on a daily basis, is writing and creating and doing these different RPGs, and watching you guys run these things. It's got to be a big help. If I were going to GM a chapter, it'd be really nice to have that as kind of a backup. So
I definitely remember hearing that some of the people who were in some of the Twitch chats were, while watching it, are like, oh yeah, this is what I'll do this when I run it, or my group hates gnomes, or something like that.
Yeah, that's right. Somebody was talking about that get some sweet payback because their last adventure, everybody was really mean to the gnomes.
And it was in Kingmaker, so it's close by.
Yeah,
these gnomes would not be that far south from their kingdom.
Yeah. No, you do not want to see me GM. Trust me. It would be very boring. It would be a lot of me looking into books, and that's pretty much all it's going to be. Now, however, I'd love to sit in and play a rogue if you need that. I'm in to do that.
Yeah, looking through books is not always good during a stream. I try to avoid looking into the book as much as possible,
yeah, which I appreciate. I mean, it is one of those things that it's the play test, so you want to make sure it's right, but then also it's like, but I don't want to spend multiple minutes just looking up stuff, so
I think if I hadn't been involved with it so intimately that I knew multiple versions of certain spells, I might have been able to not look at it at all.
Right.
But eventually those cultists had spells where it's like, I think that this is the one that made it to the final book, but let me make sure. Yeah. I was right, but it was still good that I looked it up.
Yeah, well, how many times have you heard that, Mark? You were right.
Actually, not that often.
Right. That's fair. I think that you're right quite a bit. You've got a really good mind for this stuff. You've got a really good mind for the numbers, but then also the fun and the balance and all of that sort of thing. It really is a good combo. That I think that's how come you're able to run such a good game and all of those sorts of things.
Dan.
So yeah, my mouth is dry. So
no worries.
So going on from there. Are we ready to kind of preview the update?
Yeah, let's go to update 1.4. I think that's a good thing to do right now.
1.4, as we said earlier, comes out Monday. It will be the newest one, and we're excited to have it because it's a new update. It's new stuff.
We love new updates.
For a preview, Mark, what do you got for us?
All right. So, as Dan said, it's coming out on Monday. And as we mentioned before, please be gentle. We are actually on a break and not supposed to be at work on Monday. Right. Wait until Tuesday, then you can do whatever you want. Don't tell anyone I said that.
Your name is actually right there on screen.
I can't cover it up.
No, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, it doesn't work that way. All right, so as usual for these updates, well, we've got to have something that's the big cornerstone piece of the update.
Mm-hmm.
So that cornerstone piece
is
Ancestries.
People
have been asking for some changes to Ancestries for a while.
Okay, all right. So we've got some big changes to Ancestries or some tweaks to Ancestries?
I would say big changes.
Okay, all right. What can you give us examples, or is this you have to wait till Monday?
I will not only give a general overview, but also some of our top 5 are about the Ancestry change because that's the big change.
Okay.
So the biggest change to Ancestries is instead of Ancestries merely having, and they still have this, an Ancestry feed at 1st, 5th, 9th, 13th, and 17th, some of which say Heritage as one of their traits, and you can only take them at 1st.
Right.
You still have all of those, but also your Ancestry gives you something called a Heritage. Heritage feats no longer exist. Instead, in addition, at 1st level to your 1st level Ancestry feat, you pick a Heritage for your character.
Okay.
So let's say I'm a gnome.
Yes.
Well, my heritage might be that I'm a fell gnome, which means I'm actually have connections to red-capped spriggans and some of the darker corners of the worlds of the Fae. And this gives me some a little bit more unusual gnome magic than some of the other gnomes.
Okay.
That's an example that's not a gnome. That's an example that is a gnome.
Right.
Haha. I double confused us.
You double confused.
So for elves, you could be, say, an Arctic elf that is very acclimated to cold environments and takes less cold damage. Halflings have a good way to get low light vision for those typical halfling rogues who are always there's a heritage that has descended from a long line of, we don't say it that you're stealing, you just say perform many acts under cover of twilight.
Yeah, whatever.
When there's shadows, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So you can get some low light vision. Additionally, we heard through the surveys that even feats aside, that the core chassis of halfling in particular, gnome somewhat as well, were just a little bit lower than some of the other ancestries.
Okay.
And some people online said, well, maybe that's okay because some of the feats are pretty good, like halflings have halfling luck, but fundamentally we would not like to balance ancestries on the idea that, well, this one's worse, but maybe it has better feats.
Right.
First of all, that's not a great feel, and you have to dive into it to get to that. And second, we know throughout the edition, eventually, you're not going to be able to stop. Like, you're not going to be able to say, well, no, sorry, you can't make this cool feat for this guy one because it has to have bad feats because it's better.
Right.
They're going to get good feats on all of them. So we buffed them up. Halflings now get the ability that used to be the keen vision feat that they could take as a heritage feat. They just flat out get that.
They get that now.
That is not their heritage. That is not their ancestry feat. They all get that sort of keen vision.
I like this.
And you can take a heritage to also have low light vision,
right?
Or not, depending on how much you care about your halfling's vision. There's also some other options.
Yeah.
Similarly, gnomes have had their movement speed increased to 25 feet, so that they're no longer like the paladins that go 10 feet.
Okay. So, and these are just some examples that spread across the board.
Those two, I think, are the only. Are some of the only shifts that are not in the heritage.
Right.
Other than for dwarves, like one of the things about dwarves was they had an ability that if you weren't wearing medium armor, that it didn't do anything for you, but if you were, then they were just better than everybody else. So we actually moved that into a heritage so that you didn't have to choose it if you weren't going to be wearing medium armor. And other than that, the core chassis of the ancestries is the same. We've added an additional heritage for you to pick. But now we had to remove some of the ancestry feats in order that were heritage feats or that were close enough to something that should be in a heritage now that they were moved to a heritage.
Okay.
So what should we do to replace that?
What should we do?
We made some new ancestry feats.
Yes.
And since we didn't have any that had requirements above 5th level, all the new ones have requirements that are 9th or 13th level.
Okay.
This gives you some much more powerful ancestry feats to play around with. As well. Sometimes sort of building upon some of the other feats that you had before, like taking a kind of more powerful gnome magic that gives you some pretty cool additional spells that you can use as innate spells.
Okay.
Like, what gnome hasn't wanted to become invisible or put fairy fire on other people so they can't be invisible?
Right. So that's update number 1, like our top 5 or whatever.
So I've been told that we end with the top 5. So this
good.
is
Yes.
So we're not at the top 5 yet. This is just an overview of the ancestry.
So and just to pull the curtain back a little bit, I had some technical difficulties before, and so Mark and I didn't really get a chance to prehash the show, so we're kind of going by the seat of my pants a little bit here. But I'm glad you got briefed on what the usual standard is. So
I've been briefed, and I have an outline.
Yes, I have an outline somewhere.
Yes,
I don't know where that is right now, but it's somewhere.
It's hidden technically in a very special place.
It's very safe.
It's totally
very
safe.
So yeah, sure.
Really, the ancestry is the only big thing that's going to be in this update. There are a lot of smaller things that we changed, which I will mention in the top 5. So why don't we just do the top 5? We've been talking about it so much.
You know what? Enough of this song and dance, Mark.
All right,
let's get to this top 5.
So number 5.
Number 5.
Because we got to do the best one last, right?
Yes. Logan made that mistake. He did the best one first, and then it was just
everyone was like,
right.
I don't care. This is the least interesting one at the end. Okay, so number 5.
Yes.
So Battle Medic and Natural Medicine have been updated to reflect a world where treat wounds exists. This was necessary because Natural Medicine takes the same amount of time as treat wounds, and before, when there was no treat wounds, hey, I can spend 10 minutes to get some herbs and get a little bit of hit points. But when you could instead spend 10 minutes to get a lot more hit points, you did not need Natural Medicine. So Natural Medicine and Battle Medic have been changed to reflect this universe.
Okay.
All right, that's number 5.
That's 5.
Number 4.
Okay.
So let's talk about fighter bravery a little bit. If you make your save against fear, you get a critical success, and usually that means you don't get frightened 1, because even on a regular success, most fear effects give you a frightened 1. That's cool. If you critically succeed, you get more bonuses against future fear. That's also cool.
That's fine.
The problem is fighters don't have the best will saves, so what if they didn't succeed? They didn't get anything. So we're changing bravery so that it also reduces an incoming frightened effect by 1 before it even hits you. So I actually teased this yesterday when we were talking about the mummy's despair aura that just it has no save for the frightened. You're just frightened 1 and you can't get rid of it. So they were like, how can we get rid of this? It doesn't end it on my end of my turn. It's like, well, when you're in the aura, you can't reduce it. If you were fighters on Monday, then you just wouldn't take frightened 1.
I do remember that,
So you can just reduce it coming in to 0, and then, whoops, didn't get frightened. So that generally typically helps you on your failed saves, but also helps you on those stupid mummies who don't give you a save against the frightened effect.
Right.
So that is different than what the Paladin gets, because what the Paladin gets is that they can reduce the effects of frightened on everybody near them whenever they reduce it on themselves at the end of their turn. So it's a little different, but it is something that makes the fighter a little bit better against those, let's be honest, pretty common fear effects.
Right. Okay.
So that's number 4. All of the remaining ones are about ancestries.
Okay, these are okay.
All right, so
3, 2, and 1 ancestries.
Number 3.
Number 3.
Ancestries have received a 13th level ancestry feat that gives you expert proficiency in those ancestry traded weapons.
Okay.
Now that's a fairly big deal because gaining expert or above on weapons is something that is not always easy to do. If you're a wizard and you're an elf now, you can get expert in bow. You don't even need to take like a fighter multi-class or something like that. And so that's something that is hard for a lot of other classes to get and is a pretty big upgrade.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
So that's going to be number 3.
Okay.
And this is, by the way, the only 13th level feats that we added were 13th level expert proficiency feats.
Okay.
So, number 2.
Number 2.
We added a bunch of 9th level ancestry feats, and I will now spoil possibly the coolest one.
Okay, these are 9th level.
These are all 9th level, but the one that I'm going to spoil is 9th level, which is multi-talented. It is a multi-classing based one. So when you take it at 9th level, you gain a multi-class dedication feat. So you gain it even if you don't meet its prerequisites or would not otherwise be able to get it.
Right.
Which means even if you haven't done 3 feats from your last multi-class, you can still pick another one up. You don't need 16 in the ability score. And, well, it's another way to get more multi-class feats as well, using your level 9 ancestry feat for it. So it was kind of an evolution from the half-elf multi-talented ability to have more sort of, what were they called, the favored classes.
Yes, favored classes.
And then it moved over to be like, I think all humans, I mean, because half-elves can take this too, might be able to get this ability, and it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Other cool things that'll also be in point 2 include the ability to get up to expert with elven longevity, where they're like, I've lived so long, I'm trained in everything, but I can only really focus on some of them. You can get up to expert and potentially do permanent retrains into the things that you take with trained and expert when you take them with elven longevity. So you're like, well, you know, 50 years ago, I was in an alchemist lab doing some crafting, so today I'm training crafting. That's what the first level feat that's already in the book does.
Right.
This one, you can say, actually, I was expert in crafting, and furthermore, at the end of the day, I'm just going to permanently keep that crafting and get rid of my performance that I had before, so that you can actually sort of fluidly change what your setup is.
Okay.
This plays upon both elves' long lives and the fact that they've probably learned these things at some point, and sort of the fluidity of elves, particularly in Golarion. They're a very like fluid ancestry that are known for the ability to even change their physical features based on the area they're living in and things like that. So, and there's more where that came from, but 2 is the 9th level feats.
Okay.
All right, so number one,
and
this is something that many of you may have guessed already based on the fact that I said that there are no more heritage feats, but it is. I will just point it out, and that makes it number 1 because this is such an important topic.
Right.
Okay. Enough filibustering. Half elf and half orc are heritages now. You may have guessed that, but that means you do not need to spend your first level ancestry feat to be one.
Yes.
You just say, yeah, I'm a half elf. Also, I have this human ancestry feat.
Perfect.
Bingo.
Yes.
So this gives all of the benefits of having them be a type of human in terms of more flexibility for them, giving a chassis that can be used in theory if you wanted a half elf that was not half human. All of those without the detriment that you then could never customize your half-elf beyond the fact that you were a half-elf at level 1.
Yeah, absolutely. That was very, very limiting, I think, for a lot of folks once they got into it. So
it was very
great.
powerful.
That's great.
The optimizers were all saying, oh yeah, as soon as you get to level 3, half-elf is the way to go for human.
Right.
But first of all, that included it as soon as you get to level 3.
Right.
Second of all, powerful does not mean it gives you the flexibility or the ability to really customize your character and feel like you made it your own at first level.
Yeah, absolutely.
And in fact, as heritages that are an extra thing, like, yeah, the half-elf and the half-orc don't give quite as many extra additional things as they did when they kind of took away your feat. They give almost as many things as they did before, and they are honestly very strong heritages. Right. But yes, that's going to be number 1 because those are major important types of ancestries in our game, and we want to define them in a way that is even better for them than what they had before. And yes, they had their own section before, but it still didn't always serve them as well when new human abilities came out later down the line.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So that's my top 5.
That's a heck of a top 5. Thank you, buddy. All right. Do we need to cover anything else?
I think we can go to the questions. You said
absolutely.
There's a short break, or
yeah, I'm gonna do a sign off, and then we'll continue with Twitch, and we'll do some Q&A. Okay. So all right then. So with that exciting top 5 that came our way, we'll see that update coming this Monday. That's October 8th. Monday, October something.
Whatever day is Monday.
Yes, and that'll be that's update 1.4 coming for the Pathfinder playtest. Coming up next week, we've got Jason Bowman will be right here running Chapter 5, and he'll be doing that for the next 2 weeks. So we're really looking forward to that. In the meantime,
that'll be on Thursday, and I think I'm here next Friday for the statistical deconstruction of Part 4.
Right, we'll go over the survey results at that point, so next week. All right then. On that note, I think that we're going to go ahead and sign off to the YouTube folks and say thank you so much for joining us. If you liked it, please consider hitting that subscription button and hit the bell notification button, because then you'll know every time I upload something, which is about 4 times a week now. And until then, for Paizo and for our old buddy Mark over here, and for me, your old pal Dan, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you again next time. Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Hey, well, let's go there. Bye.
Okay.
No, wave. Yeah, you got it. Bye.
Bye.